There's a window in life that's hard to define, somewhere between the echo of rebellion and the thud of responsibility. Not quite young, not quite old. You pay your bills, you hold a job, but the idea of settling down makes your stomach turn. You're technically an adult, so technically, you do what you want. That's the logic, right? If the law isn't protecting anyone, then who's even getting hurt? In my town, there's a strict no pedestrians after 2 a.m. law. Not a curfew, exactly, but you need a permit or a police escort if you're out past that hour. It always felt performative. Theater for bored cops. No one had ever explained the rule. It just showed up one year, like road work that never ends. 3 nights ago, I think, I went for a walk. The time before that blurs together. Fogged memories like water-damaged film. All I know is the apartment heat was broken again, and being on the 6th floor was like roasting inside a steel drum. Late spring, but the air was already soupy. The kind that wraps around your skin like cling film. It was after midnight and I couldn't sleep. Sheets damp, fan clicking uselessly. I needed to move. I pulled on some shorts and a threadbare tank top, slipped on my busted sneakers and grabbed my keys. Not that I needed them. The door didn't lock right. You could shut it, sure, but the latch was finicky and popped back open with a stiff wind. My landlord was getting to it. That meant never. Just before I left, I glanced at the stove clock. 2:17 a.m. Perfect. Just past the line. That dull buzz of nervous guilt stirred in my chest, like when you sneak downstairs as a kid, flip on the TV with the volume at 2, and hear footsteps overhead. But I was grown. Who was going to stop me? Some town ordinance ghost? A ticket I could ignore? I made my way down the narrow staircase. The elevator had been out since last fall, and the walk down was creaky and dim. Motion lights flickered awake and blinked back off before I reached the next landing. I kept expecting someone to step out of the shadows. By the time I pushed the front door open, I was sweating again. The air outside was heavy but cooler. No breeze, but the silence made up for it. I stepped out into the lot behind my building. Cracked asphalt, one lamppost that hummed like a dying fly trap. Everything was tinted in that orange sodium haze. I turned left onto Maple Street. No traffic, no people, just the faint electric buzz of streetlights and my own breath. A couple blocks in, I started to feel better. My body liked the movement. Even the sweat felt earned now. I didn't have a destination, just walking to wear myself out. Nights like this, it's like the world gives you space. You're alone, but not lonely. Free. I closed my eyes as I walked for a moment, enjoying the rare quiet. Then I smelled it. Something foul rode the air, heavy, sour, like boiled eggs left on a radiator. I gagged and stopped walking. The smell thickened, stung my eyes, made the back of my throat clench. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't alone. He stood in the middle of the sidewalk, barely 6 feet ahead. No sound, no warning, like he blinked into existence. I froze. His clothes hung off his body like he'd slept in a dumpster. Baggy sweats, torn hoodie, one sleeve soaked. His skin looked wrong. Pale, but with a green tint. His eyes were red-rimmed and glassy, not just bloodshot, like he hadn't blinked in days. "You all right, man?" I asked, voice cracked. He didn't answer, just stared. I took a cautious step back. No movement, another step, still nothing. Then I turned, quickly, but not too fast. No sudden movements. I started walking back the way I came. My heart punched at my ribs. Half a block later, I heard him behind me. Not footsteps, breathing. A single exhale, wet and sharp. Then another. I picked up the pace. Another breath. Closer. I broke into a jog, eyes darting to either side of the street. Empty porches, dark windows, no one awake. I turned the corner at the next block, and that's when I heard him speak. "Don't leave me," he said. I stopped, not by choice. His hand gripped my wrist like a vice. I hadn't even heard him approach. My body buckled, but he held me upright. "You remember me," he whispered. "What?" He leaned in. His breath was heat and rot. "You were there." I don't know you." "You do." I tried to pull away, but his grip didn't budge. His fingers pressed into the bones of my arm, and something sharp dug under the skin. "Help me remember," he said. And then everything went white. I woke up on the ground, alone. The sun was rising, pale blue sky, birds chirping like nothing was wrong. My clothes were damp with sweat and something else, something sticky. I was lying in the middle of a gravel path at the edge of Forest Park, miles from my apartment. I stumbled to my feet, head pounding. Nothing made sense. I remembered the man. I remembered his eyes. I remembered trying to scream. I remembered nothing else. I walked. Somehow I found a main road, hitched a ride with a delivery van. Didn't say much, just gave the driver my address and stared out the window. My phone was gone, my wallet too, just the keys in my pocket. When I got back to the building, the front door was wide open. Upstairs, I stopped outside my apartment, but I didn't go in, because I wasn't sure it was mine. I recognized the door, the welcome mat, the dent in the drywall beside it. But when I touched the knob, I hesitated. Something felt off, so I moved on, tried the next one, locked. The next one, open. I stepped inside. Same layout, same floor plan. But the furniture was wrong. The photos on the wall weren't mine. The smell wasn't mine. "Can I help you?" a voice said. A woman, early 30s, robe, confused but calm. I shook my head. I'm sorry, I thought this was... Never mind. She didn't push, just gave me a look and gently closed the door. I stood in the hallway for a while, then walked downstairs. The rest of that day is gone. A blur. I know I slept somewhere. Maybe the basement, maybe the roof. I just know that when the sun dipped again, I was back on the street. Walking. I've been walking ever since. Nights are weird now. The lights flicker when I pass. The wind only moves when I stop. People I pass sometimes flinch, like they almost recognize me, or smell something they can't place. I try to remember that night, 3 nights ago, or was it 4? Something was taken from me, or maybe left behind, and now the town feels different, off-key. Like a song I used to know, played in the wrong order. I passed a woman tonight walking her dog. She looked at me for a long time before whispering, "You again?" I didn't respond, because I didn't know what she meant. But part of me wanted to ask her for help. Part of me still wants to scream, "Help me remember." I've never told anyone this. Not really, because once you say it out loud, you can't take it back. And even now, decades later, I'm still scared that if I speak its name, it might hear me again. This happened when I was a kid, maybe 8 or 9. We had just moved to a small, fog-heavy town in Oregon, one of those blink-and-you-miss-it places, a name you'd never remember. My parents said it was going to be a fresh start, cheaper, quieter, safer. What they didn't realize is that quiet places hide things better. We lived on the edge of town, down a gravel road lined with telephone poles that buzzed in the mist. Our house sat in the middle of a flat, sprawling property. There were a few trees near the house, but mostly it was fields, acres of tall, dry grass stretching out toward a dark line of forest on the far side. The forest was thick, unnaturally so. Not like a state park with picnic benches and trail maps. This place looked angry. Vines choked the trunks and dead limbs curled like fingers reaching out from under a bed. My parents thought it was beautiful. I hated it. There were no kids nearby, no neighbors we ever saw. My days were mostly silent, long stretches of nothing but my own voice and the occasional crow. I read books. I played with my old action figures. I sat by the window and watched the grass ripple like waves when the wind came in from the west. One afternoon, my mom asked if I wanted to come with them to the hardware store in town. It was a rare offer. Usually they didn't bother, just said, "We'll be back soon. Don't open the door for anyone." This time she smiled and asked, and this time I said no. I wanted the quiet. I liked being alone, even if something about the place kept my nerves on edge. I told her I'd be fine, and she gave me a kiss on the forehead. My dad reminded me where the emergency flashlight was, even though it was the middle of the day. When their old truck disappeared down the road, I stood in the silence and listened. Nothing but the ticking of the kitchen clock and the wind rattling the vents. Then I stepped outside. It had rained the night before, and the field was damp. The air was thick with that earthy smell, and the ground squelched under my sneakers. I wandered farther than I usually did, curiosity pulling me toward the tree line. I didn't plan to go into the woods. I never would have. But I just wanted to look. I stopped maybe 50 yards from the edge, standing where the grass started to thin out. The trees loomed in front of me, black, tangled things with no clear path between them. They just stood there, indifferent. And then I heard it. "Eli?" It came from the trees. My name. Software, gentle. I froze. Every inch of me knew that voice. It was my mom's, but not quite. "Come here, sweetheart. You'll catch cold out there." It was off. The tone was flat, like someone remembering how to sound human. I took a step back. I said, "Come here, Eli." That time it was sharper, more insistent. I spun and ran. I didn't care about the mud or the sharp bits of broken stalks beneath my feet. I sprinted back to the house, slammed the front door behind me, and locked it. My hands were shaking so hard I fumbled with the latch. And then came the knock. 3 short raps, then silence. My legs gave out and I dropped behind the couch. "Eli," it said. The voice wasn't even trying anymore. Too low, too smooth, like a recording playing at half speed. "Open the door. I brought you something." I stayed crouched down, barely breathing. My eyes stung with tears, but I didn't make a sound. Eventually, the voice stopped. The knock didn't come again. I waited there until I heard the truck crunch up the gravel. My dad calling, "Hey, bud, we're home." My mom stepped in behind him, carrying a bag of groceries and humming. I watched her, closely, too closely. She was her. I didn't say anything. I didn't tell them what I heard. I didn't ask if they came back earlier. I just nodded and went to my room. I stayed there most of the night, staring at the wall. Around 2 a.m., I woke up and realized my blinds were still open. I rolled over to close them and stopped. There was a face outside my window, inches from the glass, watching me. It was my mother, but not. The eyes weren't blinking. The skin looked too pale in the moonlight, like something peeled and stretched. And the mouth, it smiled, a slow, crooked thing, too wide, too many teeth. Then it opened its jaw just slightly and tapped the glass with one finger. Tap, tap, tap. I screamed. By the time my parents came rushing in, there was nothing there, no sign of anything, just the misty glass and my soaked bedsheets. They believed I had a nightmare. Maybe I did. Maybe all of it was. But I never forgot. We moved away from that place a year later. My dad got a better job in California, and we left without much warning. I never asked why. Now I'm older, married, a kid of my own, and I still have dreams about that face. But last night, something worse happened. My daughter Naomi ran into our room at 3 a.m., crying. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked, wiping her cheeks. "There's a lady at my window," she whispered. My wife froze. "What kind of lady?" "She looked like Mommy." My heart stopped. "But she had too many teeth."